I do want to welcome all of you to another study in the apocalyptic prophecies. It's been quite a while now. We've gone through Daniel, all of the apocalyptic prophecies there, Matthew 24 and 25. We are a little over halfway through our study in Revelation. And over the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've been doing a fairly in-depth study on the 144,000 based around the Revelation chapter 14, 1 through 5, where the 144,000 are described and their qualities are given. And rather than just read through the verses and take certain note of qualities and characteristics, what I hope to do is to give a clear enough picture of all of the places in Revelation where the 144,000 are described, that a better understanding can be ascertained, so that the 144,000 won't be just some kind of nebulous number, and that those who are really serious about understanding all of the information that God has given will have a better sense of the information that God has given concerning the 144,000. In Revelation chapter 3, I pointed out that of this group of people that is described here, the group of people, and for those of you who may just be joining us this morning or have just joined us in the last few weeks, the messages to the 7 churches or 7 assemblies are a message to the kingdom of God at the end of time, and each one is concerning certain areas that need to be addressed. The message to Sardis is an address to the kingdom of heaven, and God is telling them that they are asleep, and in the King James fashion, asleep unto death. In other words, you have fallen asleep in death, and you are almost completely dead. And if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know at what time I will come to you. In Matthew chapter 25, those of you who went over that with us recognize that there is also a group of people there who have fallen asleep. Jesus told his disciples, and Matthew wrote it down, the reason for their falling asleep. They thought the bridegroom was going to come to earth on a certain day. This group of people, Jesus starts out his description in calling them the kingdom of heaven. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids that went out to meet the bridegroom. Jesus also tells us that their expectation of the return of the bridegroom was not fulfilled. And that as they were out there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, the return of the bridegroom did not seem so imminent anymore. And as they continued in their wait, they became very drowsy, sleepy, and fell asleep. What awakened them was not the bridegroom. The bridegroom did not come and say, "Hey, wake up, I'm here." No, it was a cry which preceded the arrival of the bridegroom. And this cry came at midnight while they're all sound asleep. And the cry was, "Behold, the bridegroom, he's now on his way. He is coming to get his bride." And they all woke up. And you know the account, some of them were ready and half of them were ready and half of them weren't. Well, I can't help but hear, ringing in my ears as I'm reading this message to Sardis, this same identical account. You are asleep. And if you do not wake up on your own and realize that you are my kingdom and that a sleeping kingdom is of no use to me, this is what God would be saying. If you don't wake up, when I do return, it will be a total surprise for you. Even though in your name it says Adventist. An Adventist is someone who believes in the second coming, the second advent, the advent of Christ. Christ, the bridegroom. And incidentally, in this account, Jesus says, "I know your deeds," and this is in verse 1, the last part of verse 1, "I know your deeds, that you have a name that is alive, but you are dead." So this group of people who are the kingdom of heaven have in their name something that bespeaks of a characteristic of which they are not. So they are asleep, but their name would imply that they are awake with expectation, preparing for the advent of the bridegroom.
One of the useful adages in this situation is, if the shoe fits, wear it. But the problem is, these people that it applies to have no concept that the shoe actually fits. They don't understand how they could possibly be asleep when they see themselves as being so active and involved in what their concept of their mission.
When one understands the mission of the kingdom of heaven, then these words really fit into context. The kingdom of heaven has always been God's agent in the world. A kingdom that is in the world but not of the world. A kingdom through whom God can spread the truth that He is the true God, who was up against the false god, who's been quite successful in keeping the truth in obscurity. The way he's accomplished this is to subvert the religious leadership of the kingdom, the religious leadership of the priests.